So this week, Banana and I came up with the best band name ever. And really, it's like both is a 50-50 split between who gets credit for this whenever this band makes it big.
Yeah.
And we sell this name off.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching Bridgerton, and there's a character. Have you watched it?
Nope.
Lucky. No,
Yep.
it's actually better than I thought. It's...
Well, my wife is
Anyway.
watching a series on Netflix called Rain.
Oh, yeah, my parents love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most horribly acted movie or show ever.
I know, my parents love it.
It's awful.
So Bridgerton has a character that she's like she's like the tailor for all the women in the town.
Uh-huh.
And I thought she was like, she had some hookers upstairs.
Sure.
And so I asked a question. I was like, is she the one that's harboring hookers upstairs? And Banana just sat there for a second, and then she started laughing. She goes,
yeah.
Oh, man, that's like the best band name of all time. And I go, harboring hookers? and then we laughed, and we came up with this band name. So as you can see, it's a 50-50 split between I came up with the name, she coined it for a band. It's 50-50, just like everything in our relationship. It's perfectly balanced. There's nothing that's not unbalanced in our relationship.
All right.
Welcome to the party, pal, known as the Nerd Rundown Podcast, where we cover the latest in the nerd world of movies, TV, comics, games, and Die Hard. My name is John McClane, and with me, as always, is my buddy cop, Sergeant Al Powell. JK. I'm your host, Aaron Simple, and with me, as always, is my co-pilot, is the sensationally voiced Eric Hare. We appreciate you joining us today, and if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at The Nerd Rundown, find us on our YouTube channel at The Nerd Rundown, and you can listen to our podcasts on places like Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Player FM, Amazon, Deezer, and Buzzsprout. Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Eric. It's time for our Die Hard themed episode where we're going to pay special tribute to one of, if not the greatest, action movie of all time, and basically turn everything into a Die Hard reference. So today is going to be a fantastic show for you all, where we'll cover the latest on the rundown. Then we'll talk a little to Die Hard, maybe a lot, and a lot, yeah, hopefully a lot, and then we'll finish off with some nerd questions. And
then we'll make fists with our toes.
So that we can fly safe in the future.
Absolutely.
And now, come out to the coast. We'll get together, have a few laughs, and give you the rundown.
The rundown.
All right, we have on the rundown first, maybe the most exciting thing I've given a rundown on yet, or that we've given a rundown yet, because I know we both are in love with this show.
Yes.
We cannot wait for season 3. We have some Jack Ryan, Amazon Prime's Jack Ryan.
Yep.
Amazon Prime's Jack Ryan season 3 news. We have a synopsis. We don't have a release date yet, but we have maybe some theories on when that might release. But maybe some story details coming up. Of course, this stars John Krasinski.
Yes.
My main man.
Is he on your list too?
He's like 4.
Yeah.
On the women list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey. Well, I mean, we're going to be talking about Bruce Willis, so he's on mine.
John McClane's like number 2.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on my list. A bottle of wine and a back rub. Hey. Who knows? Who knows what might happen?
but only red because John McClane is just always covered in red.
Yeah, he's a red wine.
Red wine kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot see him drinking a Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
I can never say that.
Yeah.
Sauvignon?
Sure.
Sauvignon. Oh, you got to say it with a better accent.
Sauvignon.
Sauvignon Blanc.
That's where you dip into your French accent. Sauvignon.
Okay, so back to the really great stuff.
Yes.
Even though I really enjoy a nice Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah. Right.
So here we got some plot story details. Season 3 of Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan finds Jack Ryan in this in this office. We will not tolerate redundancy in this office. Season 3 of Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan finds Jack Ryan on the run and in a race against time. Jack is wrongly implicated in a larger conspiracy and suddenly finds himself a fugitive out in the cold, now wanted by both the CIA and an international rogue faction that he has uncovered. Jack is forced underground, crisscrossing Europe, trying to stay alive and prevent a massive global conflict. Holy cow. This sounds awesome.
Sounds sweet.
Yeah, it sounds so awesome. It takes story elements from other movies. You could say even maybe from Die Hard a little bit.
Yeah.
But the race against time is always a fun, especially for a series.
The clock is the MacGuffin.
Yeah,
it's always a great one.
The clock is ticking MacGuffin.
Yep.
How he gets implicated, we don't know, obviously, but it is one. That's one, obviously. And
my finger's on the button.
I know when you get to that third one. And finding himself a fugitive out in the cold. Definitely, I would say that takes from a little old movie called The Fugitive, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say Fugitive, definitely, for sure.
So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I can't wait. I'm hoping, praying for maybe a John Clark. I'm hoping for a John Clark appearance at some point. Maybe he helps Jack out. So maybe with Greer, maybe.
You're talking about the movie that we covered a few episodes ago called Without Remorse.
Without Remorse, yep.
Starring Michael B. Jordan.
Yep.
That would be, if that actually happened, I'd probably lose my mind.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
I'm hoping it happens, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Krasinski in doing a little more action stuff and everything. Yeah. I mean, the Jack Ryan character for the most part is they've definitely actioned him a lot more up, and especially in the movies and stuff. But yeah, so looking forward to it.
I think that the show has done a good job at not making him a total action hero.
Yes.
The Chris Pine movie, he was like a super spy action guy.
Right.
And not, again, like we talked about before, he's more of an analyst.
Yeah.
But give him a little some chaps.
Yeah, but like the first Jack Ryan movie, with Alec Baldwin was perfect. I mean, so he's an analyst, and there are certain circumstances that make him have to do action work, where he all of a sudden has to drop out of a helicopter to get on this submarine, and then
so cool,
and then and then the gunfight scene at the end. I mean, those are really the only action sequences that he's forced into,
right?
And the reason why he's in the gunfight is because he's the only guy available to do that job. Everybody else is doing something that they have to do, and Jack's the only one that doesn't have a job right at that particular moment to do. So
right.
So yeah.
And then in Patriot Games, in Clear and Present Danger, Harrison Ford is Jack Ryan.
Right.
Not a whole lot of action from him.
Right.
But good action in the movies.
Right. Well, but each of the situations, especially like Clear and Present Danger, like the action sequences that he is in, he is forced into an action sequence where like you and I would be forced. Yep. And that's the same thing with Die Hard. We'll tie it into Die Hard.
I'm going to try to tie everything into Die Hard today.
Yeah, because every situation that he's in, he's not necessarily an action star. He's not an Arnold Schwarzenegger guy who's going to look for a fight.
Right.
They took my daughter, I'm going to go get her back. That type of situation. This is. And I just happen to have a particular set of skills. So anyhow, I think the Jack Ryan character has always been one of those. He's an action star based on the circumstances that he's put into.
And season 1 did a really great job of that.
They did, yes.
And season 2, I thought season 1 was a little bit stronger than season 2. However, I still very much enjoyed season 2, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to season 3. I'll watch John Krasinski do anything.
Right.
And I'll watch any Jack Ryan story. So it's just like a perfect combination for me to be happy.
Yeah.
Be happy.
Be happy.
So cool. Okay.
All
well, a little bit of a theory on when it might come out. So the first season came out in August, and the second season came out in November.
Right.
It was like Labor Day weekend, so maybe in like early September for season 1, and then the second season was November.
Right.
Ish. You always throw an ish on there, so you're never wrong.
Right.
As an Aries, believe me, you never want to be wrong.
Right.
So
it's very politician of you to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
Yeah, right.
I will start my campaign now.
Yeah, right.
So I would say I'm hoping this isn't the case. I'm hoping that since we're starting to get some of these details here in May, we get a Q3 release.
Yeah.
It's been kind of in the can for a while now. I know COVID halted shooting.
Sure.
But not by a whole lot. They had a lot shot already. So
right.
We'll see. We'll keep you updated as we get closer to release.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll probably be looking at September or November time frame, probably the same. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Okay. Next on the rundown, kind of in that same universe, Amazon. Do you know what Amazon is?
Yeah, they shipped me my
life.
Yes, basically. It got me through COVID.
Yeah.
Made Jeff Bezos' wife
say
a
goodbye.
Lot of money. Yeah.
Well, Amazon, the big company that y'all know about, they're in talks to buy the movie studio MGM, one of the oldest movie studios out there.
Right.
Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
And remember the lion, like, rawr, at the beginning. They're in talks to buy MGM. So that's exciting for a number of reasons because they own a lot of good movie properties, i.e. James Bond.
Yes.
I was thinking of Ellis there for a second when he said i.e. in Die Hard, and I was like, my brain wires just got crossed for a second.
Yeah.
So, i.e. James Bond. So Amazon could own James Bond, which then would mean that they could continue making James Bond movies for as long as people go to see them. And then how cool would it be to combine that universe with their already spy universe where you could see a team up between James Bond, Jack Ryan, and John from Without Remorse. What's his name? John Clark. I almost said John Krasinski.
Please don't do that. That's please don't keep those things separate. That's I'm on the other end of that spectrum. Yeah.
But go ahead. You tell me why you don't want to see that coolness.
I don't want to cross over different tales like that or different characters like that. I mean, not that wouldn't be kind of cool to have, Bond do some sort of cameo in a Jack Ryan, like a MI6 whatever, type setup. But I don't know. I just prefer to keep those universes separate from one another and kind of go that route. But yeah, MGM has a huge portfolio. I mean, like you said, they are one of the oldest. They have over 4,000 film titles in their catalog, so they have created a lot of really great stuff. They've got Rocky, the whole Rocky series is, and with the latest Creed stuff, they've got that series, the RoboCop stuff. For those of you who are into the comedy, the old comedy stuff, they own the Pink Panther franchise.
Oh,
so. The Inspector Clouseau, who was one of my favorite one of my favorite classic movies of kind of all time and everything. They own the Stargate universe, which is kind of cool. Because I have a feeling the Stargate probably will get rebooted sometime soon. So they've made a lot of money off the TV shows and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, they've got a ton of stuff that's out there, and they do from the unscripted side of the house. They do The Voice, Survivor, and Shark Tank, and then also, for God's sakes, I can't believe I'm going to say the Real Housewives stuff. They're involved in the Real Housewives stuff. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're excited for it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
You're so
can't
excited.
wait for Amazon to own that.
Here's why I think it would be cool.
Yeah.
Is you could maybe start doing a James Bond TV series. And I think the James Bond model worked really well for the movies for a long time while you had the books. They're out of the books now, so it's a completely...
Right.
They're completely original James Bond stories.
Right, yeah.
And what we've seen with TV shows is the ability to really flesh out flesh out characters. And you could really expand the James Bond world through a TV show and give maybe other people in the James Bond universe, some light to shine.
Right.
Maybe bring in a new 007, whatever it might be. I think it'd be really cool. And then it's not like you'd have to have them team up for an entire movie or entire series. But, if they do a James Bond TV series, it'd be really cool to see him get some intelligence from Jack Ryan or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not. It wouldn't have to be anything huge.
Yeah, just a little nod and a wink to the. Yeah. To the.
Kind of like in the old Batman movies when they talk about Metropolis or something.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a cool little Easter egg.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how Amazon comes up with this, but I mean, the amount of money that Amazon is shoveling out right now is unbelievable. So they spent $11 billion in 2020 on TV shows, movies, and music for their Prime services. $11 billion. That's up 40% from the year before. With a B. With a B, yeah. Which was, let's see.
That's some good coin.
That's some pretty good coin, So, and I don't know how much of that is in negotiable bearer bonds, but
earning 20%.
Earning 20%, yeah. So I'm not sure. But.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it all day. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna throw in Die Hard. If we may not even start. We're not. You know what? We're just gonna start doing. We're just gonna throw them in there.
Yep.
Extra credit for people who.
If you can catch it.
Yep. But that was a good drop right there.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see if they can acquire the stuff. Somebody will at some point. Whether it's Amazon or somebody else that's too big of a franchise. There's too many franchises out there. The Hobbit, our friend Evan and Jen, they love the Hobbit stuff.
Yeah. Which we don't hate the Hobbit.
We don't. We just didn't like it.
Just not in love with it.
Yeah. So
it's us, not you.
Yeah,
it's us, not the Hobbit.
It's you.
It's really that.
It's really you. Yeah. So anyhow, so moving on, I think to the next one. I am mildly excited for this. Like I'm tempering my expectations based on the previous releases in this particular series. Because growing up, and I think a lot of people growing up, this was a big, at least from a cartoon, like a animation and toys. Because I had a truckload. Like my father spent, I have no idea how many hours building stuff. And we actually had... Hold
on real quick. Let's just say what it is.
Well, I guess we should talk about it. We should. Go.
It's Barbies. No. Eric had tons of Barbies. Snake Eyes.
Yep.
The character from the G.I. Joe universe is getting his own spinoff. It's doesn't seem like it's connected to the previous movies as they have recasted everybody.
Yep. No Rock.
No The Rock. No Channing Tatum.
Yep.
No anybody else.
Right.
That I can't remember. I know JGL was in the first one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the second one.
Yeah, I didn't mind the second one.
I actually thought the second one with Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yeah.
Mr. John McClane himself.
He shows up.
So he's the original G.I. Joe.
Yes.
Which I thought that was an awesome idea.
Yeah, it was
that's something to build off.
It's a great way to bring him in.
And I remember my dad and I coming out of the movie theater watching G.I. Joe Retaliation is what it's called.
Yeah.
The first one was G.I. Joe Rise of the Cobra.
Right.
We came out of the movie theater and I remember thinking we both were like, that was awesome. it exceeded our expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the first one was so bad that, really it kind of lowered your expectation point, so that this one comes in and it's like, hey, this is pretty good. And it doesn't take itself too seriously. That's that's the thing about it is like the whole series didn't really take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
But I mean every kid, well, not every kid, but most kids who grew up in the 80s and 90s,
every
like they
cool
had
kid.
a ton of G.I. Joe stuff. Like like I said, my parents bought us one year for Christmas, my brother-in-law, they bought us the 6-foot long USS Flag aircraft carrier. Like we had this thing in our basement, and I probably took my dad a day and a half to put that. I can't even imagine how much time it took him to put that thing together.
So badass.
But yeah, I mean, he put this whole thing together, and then it had the 2 F-14 Tomcat toys on top of it. I mean, it was so cool. It was so cool. So, all the toys.
Could you get inside of it?
Well, no.
Or is it just more of an exterior toy?
Yeah, it was an exterior toy, but it was huge. I mean, it was so long. Like we had it on the basement floor.
Huge.
Yeah, and
they don't make them like that anymore.
They really don't. And so I mean, it was
fun.
fun.
Make them like they used to.
They sure don't, man. They make them all out of plastic. But yeah, I mean, all the toys were so great. They had such cool stuff that you could play with, and and the cartoon. I'd come home from school every day in the afternoon, and the cartoon would be on. So, and to go, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But the series, the movies that made us, actually started with a series called The Toys That Made Us.
Right.
And it is really great. And they talk about one of their episodes is on G.I. Joe. And it goes back to the 1960s when they made the first G.I. Joe character. Yeah. It pretty much was a doll, like a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
And
like a Ken doll.
Yeah. And so it's really cool. It's a great series. It shows how they made it, how they came with the size of the figures and all this different stuff. So, yeah, I mean, really, really neat stuff. And just great toys. I mean, just a lot of fun.
It's why we have action figures.
Yes.
You know, so the influence that G.I. Joe's had on pop culture, on the world, on Earth.
Right.
It is immense.
Yeah.
And it's really actually quite unbelievable that they haven't been able to cinematize G.I. Joe better.
Right. Well, and I don't understand why. I think
it feels like it lends itself to an amazing movie experience.
Yeah, and I just think maybe they just haven't had the right creative team around it, because that second one, Retaliation, was actually not bad. Like again, they don't take themselves too seriously.
Who's the studio on it? Do you know?
You need to understand what your audience is looking for, which is you don't make fun of the military, because that's what it is. Don't make fun of the military, but also don't make, and you can't make it too campy, but you also need to be give them some extraordinary things to do that are maybe outside of what normal military would do. So,
well, I think the Transformers movies, because they're both Hasbro.
Yeah.
Maybe influenced it a little more than it should have. They are separate toys, separate universes. It shouldn't feel like a Transformers movie going to watch a G.I. Joe movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that didn't help. And again, the first one was late 2000s, and they just weren't making good movies at that time.
Well, the CGI was not that great.
Again, it was influenced by Transformers a little much, even though the first Transformers movie was good. Again, it shouldn't feel like those bodysuits they had in the first G.I. Joe. It was just like, no thanks.
Right, yeah. No, it wasn't good.
Just give The Rock a big old gun and let him go.
Let him do his thing.
Let him do his thing. So
yeah. So I mean, as far as the trailer was concerned, I liked the trailer. I thought it was good. I was hoping for more.
Yeah, it was a minute long.
It was super brief.
I didn't even look. I've been doing this a lot lately, where I don't look at the time when I watch a trailer.
Yeah.
And what was the first? What was that? Oh, the Tomorrow World.
Yeah.
Ended after 30 seconds, and it was much like this one. After a minute, I was like, "Oh, it's done. That's all they're going to show us."
Yeah.
What the hell?
It just was kind of silly. So.
The lead actor in this is Henry Golding.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a really good segue here in a second.
Okay.
Henry Golding, he was the lead actor in Crazy Witch. Not Crazy Witch.
Witch.
Crazy Witch Asians. Crazy Rich Asians.
What is it? The where we from Christmas Vacation, where the this tree the symbol of the Griswold family Christmas? So all of a sudden you like walk yourself into a speech impediment.
I've never had a speech impediment in my life, and I feel like every Saturday morning recording this show,
Right.
it's just like I can't talk.
It happens.
We talked about us being dumber, but I also now am disabled as well.
Right.
So Henry Golding is the lead actor, pretty great. The original Snake Eyes from the first two movies was played by Ray Park, who you may know as Darth Maul or Toad on the X-Men movies. Or X-Men movie, the very first one.
Yeah.
He was not cast in this movie. Snake Eyes is a little bit taller, and I don't know if it's Henry Golding in the suit, but he's not in the suit very much anyway in this. So he's looks like he's got the chops for it.
Yeah, he does. It looks good. So we'll see how it goes. And this is not to be confused with Nicolas Cage's 1998.
No, that
Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes, where he's
He's a gambler.
He's a gambler, yeah. Or isn't he a detective?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's so bad.
It's really.
It was like that was like the first red flag for Nick Cage.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so Henry Golding is the lead actor, and we're going to move from one Henry to another Henry.
Okay.
Henry Cavill has been cast as the lead in the new Highlander movie.
Yes.
We're not sure. I wrote it down as a reboot, but it actually doesn't confirm if it's a reboot or not, if it's a continuation of the movie from 1986.
Right, yeah, kind of...
starring Christopher Lambert himself.
Yes.
There can be only one.
And Sean Connery.
Yeah. So we're not sure if it's... and Clancy Brown, who's in Lost.
Oh.
Such a good actor.
Oh, my gosh, he was so great as the Kurgan.
Yeah. Did this win Best Picture?
A Highlander?
Highlander movie?
No.
Or did it win? It won. I feel like it won an award.
It maybe, but I don't know. It was awesome though. I remember my Uncle Frank got me into the Highlander. It was just the coolest thing ever, and I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is phenomenal. 1986, I think I was 10 when it came out, 9 or 10 when it came out. So yeah, I mean, just super cool. I mean, and like you said, Clancy Brown as the Kurgan. That dude scared the living heck out of me.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite quotes of like all time is on my Facebook page. I used to do like movie quotes every day. You know, I would do. I would just.
Which is what made me fall in love with you.
Right. I just would come up with something would pop in my head. I'd be driving down the road and I'm like, oh, okay, this is my movie quote for the day. But one of my favorites is Sean Connery and the way he says it, you know, in his accent and all that stuff. He plays. It's really funny. They have a Scottish actor playing a Spanish lord. You know,
much like a British actor playing a German terrorist.
Right. Yes. Right.
Who then goes into an American accent later in the movie.
Yeah. So one of his things is he has this quote where he talks about the sky being, you know, he says, how can this be? And then he says, why does the sun come up? Are the stars just pinholes in the curtain of night? Who knows? What I do know is that because you were born different, men will fear you. You know, and I just remember I've always loved that quote, and the way Sean Connery says that quote, the way he says, "Are stars just pinholes in the curtain of night?" You know, especially living here in Colorado, where you can see so many stars. Like I just absolutely love the imagery in that particular quote, and the way he says it is just really amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, the Ramirez character is great. The Kurgan character is great, and then Lambert as Connor McLeod.
Yeah.
Just from the very beginning of that, you know, where, and to take you back to 80s time period, the movie opens with the WWF, World Wrestling Federation guys, you know, in like all their glory. I mean, 1986 was wrestling's, you know, glory days. You know, of course, they've gone on to really great amazing things as well. But that was like when it first got huge and everybody loved it. So yeah. So I'm super excited for this.
Yeah.
I think Cavill will be fantastic. I really do.
Cavill is trying to get all the famous he's trying to become the most famous character actor. He's got Superman under his credit.
Yep.
He's got Sherlock Holmes under his credit.
Right.
Now. He was in Enola
Holmes. Yes. Yep.
He's in The Witcher.
Yes. Which, for those of you who don't know, is a video game, a very, very popular video game.
Season 2 that's about to come out.
Right, that they have. Netflix has created a series based on that, and he's the Witcher in that.
So,
he's.
There's one more. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
He was in the. Did you see The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Oh, I love that movie.
Wasn't that a great movie?
Yes. Oh, he was in Mission Impossible. That's what I was saying.
He was in Mission Impossible. Yeah.
That
movie was a lot of fun.
I know, right? Like, why did that movie not do better?
I don't know. I thought it was a fun movie. Like Armie Hammer was great in it.
Really good.
And then
what was that?
Cavill was really great in it. So
what's that girl's?
Even your
to two girls in that movie.
Even your dancing guy.
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant is in it. You know,
my guy.
Come on.
Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, Alicia.
But even more than that, Elizabeth Debicki.
Yes.
Woo wee, that girl is pretty.
Yep.
She's got some eyes on her that just catch you. So,
good stuff.
Alicia Vikander was Tomb Raider, in case you're wondering who that is.
Yeah.
And Armie Hammer is a cannibal, if you're wondering who he is.
Right.
Have you heard that story?
No.
Wait, have we not talked about this?
I don't think
We're going to have to talk about this also.
He's in trouble with the Me Too movement, I think, right now.
Because he's a cannibal. Not because he's sexually harassing people, because he's... it's probably a version of sexual harassment, but it is...
He's trying to eat people?
It's a long story.
He just wants to carve like a little piece.
Maybe the next time you're having a meeting with the porcelain god, look up Armie Hammer cannibal.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Your legs might fall asleep, but it's okay.
Is this like the Richard Gere gerbil situation?
Oh, I haven't heard about that. Is he eat gerbils? Or is he like gerbils?
You should read the... next time when you're on the porcelain throne, why don't you look up the Richard Gere gerbil stuff?
Okay.
So,
am I going to lose some respect for Richard Gere?
Maybe. I don't know what kind of person I don't know if we've gotten to that point.
We're not that
you
far
may be like, what? Yeah.
All right, you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll know when I look that up.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty crazy. Anyway.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill, great Superman. I cannot believe that Warner Brothers and DC could not get their act together to get him another Superman movie. I know he was in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, but give that man his own Superman movie.
Yeah.
He was a perfect Clark Kent. He was a perfect Superman. I cannot believe... I can because it's DC and they just can't get their act together, but...
Yeah. Well, and now it sounds like they're going in a different direction with Superman. They're going to go with an
African-American.
Ta-Nehisi Coates reimagining of Superman, I guess. So, we'll see how that goes.
Anyway,
but yeah.
It's really crazy what Henry Cavill's doing. And it's not like the Mission Impossible character was... he wasn't a famous MI character.
Right.
But he was really great in that movie. You haven't seen it yet.
Nope.
Okay, I watched the Movies That Made Us episode of Die Hard at least.
Yeah.
But now I really want to watch the rest of them.
That's because I told you that I wouldn't talk to you again. I wouldn't even do the podcast if you didn't listen, if you didn't watch it.
I know, and I can't do this without you, Eric. So
yeah. I need to. In fact, that's my homework this week. I will watch the Mission Impossible.
It's so freaking good.
In fact, I'll try and watch it tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a good Saturday night movie. Put it on in the movie theater over here.
Yep.
Okay. So excited for the Highlander movie. I'm going to guess it's a reboot. I don't think that they would continue his character from the Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, I hope they don't because, the Highlander 2 sequel that they had with like Michael Ironside and stuff it kind of introduced and kind of took away from...
I've seen it.
It took away... Like, it was still all right. It was not great, but it kind of took away from the mythology of the initial one, which was that you just had this race of immortal people that existed here on Earth, and they would, magically have this thing called the Gathering where, they felt this natural pull to fight and be the one. There was only one that was allowed to be immortal. Yep. And so it was just great. It was really great, and it was fun to watch some of the stuff that they did in that original Highlander movie. Where the guy has, I think one of my favorite scenes is where he gets shot. He goes into a duel with another guy, and the guy just shoots him like 5-6 times. And he just doesn't die. So anyhow, it's great. So it's a good series. I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with, and if Cavill ends up being the guy in that one, I'm not going to be disappointed. I can tell you that much. So
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right, so Henry Cavill, he starred in a movie called The Cold Light of Day, which also starred Bruce Willis, Bruce Willis stars in a little movie we like to call Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Die Hard. It's time to talk about some Die Hard.
Yes.
And so this is the 7th episode?
This is episode 7.
We haven't even named the episode.
I believe the name of the episode should be...
Nerd Hard.
Nerd Hard. Got it.
Yep, we're going to call this Nerd Hard.
Okay.
In memoriam of in reference to Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah.
So Nerd Hard
in honor of Die Hard.
There you go. That's what I meant to say. In honor of Die Hard, we're calling this Nerd Hard. So
yep.
Very excited about this. I've been all week just like, can we get to Saturday already so we can record and talk about Die Hard? We have a 3-segment plan here. We're going to talk about what we love about Die Hard.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about this great little show that Eric's been talking about, and I finally got to watch, called The Movies That Made Us. It's a little documentary series, 4 episodes long, about 4 different movies.
Right.
Die Hard being one of them. It tells the story of how it was made.
Right.
Which is an incredible story.
It really is. And just to let you know, like I'm not like a documentary like fanatic. Like I don't watch a lot of documentaries.
Me either. That's probably why it took me so long to watch this.
Somebody plugged me into, at some point they plugged me into the Toys That Made Us. They were like, "Hey, you should really watch the Toys That Made Us." And I said, "Okay, so I think I watched the first episode on Star Wars toys because, Star Wars toys were so amazing.
Yeah.
And the way they edit it together, the people that they interview and all the different stuff.
I think now that you say that, I think I've watched the Star Wars episode 1.
Yeah. And they they interview some of the stars of the different characters and stuff, some of the smaller ones and things of that nature, maybe that they were referenced off of. Yep. So like for the Star Trek one, I think they had a couple of Star Trek guys, but honestly it's all just about production and how these things get produced. And so the Die Hard one to me was, okay, if I'm somebody in,
we're going to get into it.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's save that for for when we get to that.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about the legacy of Die Hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is huge.
Yes.
And maybe just more than we have time for. But
right.
Let's start with what we love about Die Hard. I'm going to give you the mic, and you tell me.
Okay. So
what you love about Die Hard.
Man. Well, first of all, and I'll be controversial here. Maybe I'm controversial. Maybe I'm not controversial, but. My thing about it is it's the greatest Christmas movie ever made. So
agreed.
I know that a lot of people don't feel that it's a Christmas movie, but they're wrong. And
plays Ode to Joy.
Yeah, exactly. It's got Christmas music in it.
Like
it's got jingle bells, like you can hear.
Yeah. It's got like 27 Christmas trees in it.
Yeah, Michael Kamen included bells in it to make it more Christmassy. So thank you. All right, that's all I care about. So we
don't even know what the definition of what is a Christmas movie,
right?
But if you looked it up,
it's Die Hard's at the top of that list. So
for sure.
So the balance of action, humor, drama. There's actually decent drama, and they do a good job of. Your character is, for the most part, an endearing guy right from the very get-go. The first thing you're introduced to is a weakness that he has. You know, you're introduced to the fact that the guy doesn't like to fly.
Right.
And who can't relate to that? Like a lot of people don't like to fly, and so you can relate to. Or so even if you yourself,
or even a little bit nervous about it,
right? Even if you yourself are not, you can relate to a person or have somebody in your life that is afraid to fly. So he's got this fear of, or this at least the nervousness about flying, and so
it gets brought up in the following movies, like almost every single one. one. I
right.
love it.
They keep referencing back to this, and so.
What are you doing here? I don't like to fly. Or I don't like to fly. What are you doing in here then? I don't like to lose either.
Right. Yeah, right. So, so they show weakness in that particular character. He gets and again, the action that takes place in this is he's not some hulking action star. He's a normal dude. He's just a normal street cop, or detective, I guess, or whatever. But
this is the first one that had a relatable guy.
Right. He just was an average
From
dude.
Everything, like his clothing, his hair was already receding.
Right.
His incessant talking to himself.
Right.
Everybody talks to themselves, and that's probably the best part about the whole movies is him talking about it to himself.
It really is, because he's got nobody else. I mean, other than later on, he gets Al, and he's able to really relate. Yeah. But the moments, the tender moments that he has with Al in there, just make you love him more. Because he shows how much he's screwed up with his wife, and he's out there. And even in the first scene where they get into a fight with each other, and he's like afterwards, he's like, God, you idiot! Like why can't you just, why can't you get this right?
Do this.
Yeah, it just is it's amazing. Right. So he's a completely relatable guy. He's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Rambo, the Sylvester Stallone's Rambo, or even Jean-Claude Van Damme, which I think this is. I don't think we've really been interested to JCVD just yet, but
in the 80s, we haven't talked about him much.
I mean, he doesn't have any special set of skills. He's just a guy forced into a particular situation, and so I mean, that's what I love about that movie.
Right. And so everything you just said.
Yes.
Plus, what I love about this movie is everybody has a purpose in it.
Yes.
There isn't a single person who doesn't serve at least a little purpose.
Right.
And you can go down the list, but the number 2 person in the movie is arguably the best person in the movie, Hans Gruber.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the greatest villains of all time. And the thing I love about Hans is there's always something that just feels a little off about him throughout the whole movie, and it plays into the whole getaway, that plan that he has.
Right.
And so he puts together this plan where the hostages blow up and they blow up with it, and what's the line he says? He says they will find you if you steal.
Oh, if you steal $200, they'll let you go. But if you steal $200 million, they will find you unless they think you're already dead.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, that was good.
Yeah,
that's a good plan. And he's ruthless. Like
absolutely.
He kills Takagi right off the bat. He doesn't have a problem with that.
He's very cold.
Yeah, he's smart. He's charismatic.
Yes.
But also,
it's the charisma.
But he also has a heart. Like
yes.
And it's really displayed in the scene when
Gennaro or Holly.
Holly comes in and is talking about the pregnant lady.
Right. And you could see on his face.
You could see it on his face. He's like, "No, but we'll have one brought out for you. Is that okay?" It's like, like he plays that so well.
Right.
That they has some heart to him. So he's just a perfect villain.
Yes.
And they're talking on the radio throughout the whole movie, and then finally they get to meet face to face, and it's a great scene because you're not sure if John McClane knows that this is Hans.
Right, because he's seen Hans, but only from above.
Top. Yeah.
Yeah. So
then hurt him, obviously.
Right.
So
right.
Only get one.
Right. One yeah.
More. So he finally
just gonna charge up the electrical
get it going, get it ready. Yep. So he finally sees Hans, and this whole scene is so good because you're not sure if I think Hans knows that it's John, but you don't know if John knows it's Hans, and so it's got your heart starts racing a little bit. I mean, I've seen the movie hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Every time I watch the scene, I still am like, yes, this is still a good scene. I'm not surprised by it.
Right.
But it still is. It keeps me engaged.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, and then he's so unnerving throughout the entire movie, and the one thing that kind of does unnerve him a little is Holly at the end, and calls him she says, "You're just a petty thief after all."
Right.
And it finally shakes him a little bit.
You get a burst of emotion from him.
Yeah.
Because everything up to that point, everything he'd done has been completely under control. Completely
planned
under control.
out.
Yep.
Like he knows the contingencies, everything.
Right.
And at that point, it was just like, whoa.
Yeah. You could see the stress of the situation is getting to him, and then when she says that, it pushes him over the edge. John is getting to him.
Yeah.
John is
right.
He can see his plan falling apart,
yeah.
because John hasn't been able to take care of John yet, and like she said, or Holly says earlier, when the girl goes, that guy is really pissed. And she goes,
it lets
John
Holly know.
Yeah. Only John can make somebody that crazy, So, yeah, but it's Hans Gruber is probably the best. Like I agree with you. Yeah. Hans Gruber is probably one of the best villains.
Definitely the best villain from the 80s.
Right. And Alan Rickman, who is, God rest his soul, was one of the best actors out there. And
this was his first feature film.
It was. Prior to that, he was a stage actor.
Right.
He did just plays and stuff like that. And so, it's funny when you talk about casting. A lot of people in this movie, other than Bonnie Bedelia and Bruce Willis, for the most part, nobody really knew who these other folks were. I mean, there were a couple people. William Atherton, you would have known from Ghostbusters, who plays the scumbag Thornburg reporter, who
eat it, Harvey.
Yeah, right. He tell me you got that.
Yeah.
But I just think
that's in Helsinki, Sweden.
Right. Finland.
or what's the other country up there?
Finland.
Is it Finland?
Yeah.
Helsinki.
Yeah, Helsinki, Finland. But that's what the guy goes. The guy goes, it's Finland.
Yeah, and he's just frozen.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, prior to that, for the most part, everybody in this movie was small bit actors. Like I shouldn't say. So the major roles were
Captain was what's his name?
Paul Gleason. He was from Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
You knew him from
Principal.
the Breakfast Club. Yep. So but none of them were major stars.
Right.
Nobody in this was major star except for Bruce Willis, and even Bruce Willis was not necessarily a major star. He was coming out of the show Moonlighting,
right,
with Sybil Shepherd, which is funny because that was Sybil Shepherd's show, because that was her thing, and then Bruce kind of stole that show from her. Yeah, he's
so good. He's so charismatic.
Yeah, he really was.
All the ladies loved him.
Yep.
And geez, calm down, Darren. I'm getting excited over here. Even at that time, it was very rare for a TV actor to make the jump to movies.
Right.
It's not necessarily like it is today.
Right.
And so it was a huge risk. And when they were making, we can go into the movies that made us, because this story is just incredible.
Yeah.
And we'll start with the casting of Bruce Willis, because it's probably when you think about the whole of making this movie,
right? Maybe
the best story is, I don't know. It's the casting of Bruce Willis is definitely up there.
Yes,
but so let's take a step back real quick.
Okay.
This movie is based off a book called
Nothing Lasts
Forever.
Yep.
Which is a sequel to a book called The Detective.
Right.
And The Detective was made into a movie where Frank Sinatra himself was cast as the lead, and so it was a movie, did very well.
Yes.
And Frank Sinatra wanted to do a sequel.
Right.
And it took 8 years or so for this to be kind of
for the author
to write the sequel.
Correct.
And he didn't want to write a sequel.
Yeah.
So he kind of wrote
it. He was done with the character.
He was done with the character.
Yeah.
He wrote something completely different, and it turned out it was
he wanted to write
forever.
An action book.
Yeah, he wanted to write an action book.
Yeah.
And so he all the story elements are there.
Right.
It's Christmas. It's a guy in
in a
high-rise building.
Yep.
That even blows up, I think. So it's really cool. So when they finally started to be like, okay, let's make this into a movie, they had to offer it to Frank Sinatra legally.
Right.
Who's 73 at the time.
Right.
Barely can take a crap by himself.
Right.
And
well, I'm sure it probably happens on its own, but
yeah, he's probably in the Depends at that time. Knowing the hard life he had.
Right. He liked to drink.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And so, you're not going to see 73-year-old Frank Sinatra running around Nakatomi Plaza, which obviously wasn't
with no shoes on. Yep.
Damn, that third drop.
Yep.
So you're not going to see him run around Nakatomi Plaza killing bad guys.
Right.
So then they're like, okay, it's 1980. I think the movie came out in 88, so they're starting to make it in 86 and 87.
Right.
And they're like, okay, let's offer it to Arnold.
Right.
Sylvester.
Yeah, so Arnold says no.
Arnold says no.
Sylvester says no. Richard Gere says no.
And you said Richard Gere. I was like, oh, we're going to talk about Richard Gere later.
Yep.
Richard Gere said no.
And his gerbils.
Jimmy Caan.
James Caan
himself.
Yep. Yeah, who at the time was, again, we're talking the 80s.
Yeah.
So James Caan was a young guy coming out of the Godfather
series. Yep. Who James Caan plays in one of my favorite all-time movies, The Program, the football movie.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, he plays a coach. Yep.
Oh, he's so good.
He's really good.
So Jimmy Caan said no, and so they were like, what is going on? We can't get anybody to sign on.
Right.
And
this is Die Hard, mind you.
Yeah.
Like, this is the movie, and this is the interesting thing about it, is to see how difficult it is to get movies made. Like, and this is, this is Die Hard we're talking about, so.
And so it finally came out that they're like, what about Bruce Willis? And it was like I said, it wasn't very common for TV actors to move to movies. And so,
right. Especially a comedy actor,
especially like a romantic comedy actor.
Right.
And so they were like, let's get him. And even Bruce Willis's agent was like, only do it for $5 million.
Yeah,
which made him the highest paid actor in movies in Hollywood at the time, which was incredible. I'm sure that pissed some people off.
Right, yeah.
So just that story alone makes it really incredible. And then moving up to the movie that he got laughed at in trailers in the movie theaters. He got taken off the movie posters.
Right.
So there was
a lot of trepidation about whether or not he could pull this off.
Right.
Like, so the people who watched the rough cuts, and then when they finally did the edit, they were like, oh, this is amazing. They knew what they had.
Right.
They knew they had a thing. Yep. But what the audiences saw in the trailer, they were like, what the heck? There's no way that
it would be, I'm trying to think of like a modern day analogy if we don't really have.
Well, so John Krasinski, I think, is a really great.
That might be a very good analogy
to do, because
not necessarily that he's a romantic comedy actor.
No, but he was in The Office
as Jim Halpert, who you would not see as an action guy.
Not at all. But then you watched him in 13 hours, and I was like, holy smokes.
This guy needs to be in every action movie.
Because we actually talked about that. I think I texted you after I watched.
He was almost Captain America, and everybody was like, Jim Halpert can't be Captain America.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. But, coming out of the Moonlighting series, he was it just, everybody had this idea of what he was. He had done some he had done some spots. He did an episode of Miami Vice. I think I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's actually pretty. It's actually pretty interesting to see his character there. But yeah, he had done that show Blind Date, the movie Blind Date.
Yeah. Which had somebody famous attached to it. I can't remember who.
Yeah.
Anyway, those movies didn't do well.
Yeah.
So it was a huge risk.
He was David Addison as in Moonlight. That was that's what everybody knew him as, and so I loved him. And loved him, and so I could see why people would be like, "What? He's in an action?" Because again, you have to think, prior to this, every action movie for the most part is filled by a gigantic action.
Guy.
Yep, a guy who's hit the bench, a lot. And
I love that in the movies that made us, when they have Arnold and what's his name, and it's that scene where they clap hands and it's just biceps.
Carl Weathers, from Predator.
From Predator,
because
John
McTiernan, who did Predator,
who did Predator, and so he actually turned this down 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
The movie producer Joel Siegel kept pushing. I mean, thank God for Joel Siegel. He had a vision for this, and he went after it. He wanted these guys. They went and got Jan de Bont, who
amazing cinematographer. Not the best director, but he did direct Twister. Yeah,
so
Twister's one of my favorite movies.
He's got that under his belt.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, Jan de Bont, I think from a cinematography perspective, he is absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
but
and they said we want to disrupt the action movie.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, they wanted to do something because prior to that, everything kind of had become formulaic. Thank you. In action stuff.
Yeah.
You had like the Terminator, you had the Arnold, Commando stuff, and then Rambo and all that stuff. So everything had kind of gotten to, and so these guys got together and they were like, no, we want to do an action movie. We want to do something different than everybody else.
And it's going to be a different action movie because the action hero himself is different.
Correct.
So it's really great how it all played out.
Right.
And then they went and casted. So again, Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman.
Yep.
Hadn't done a feature film.
Right.
Al Powell.
Reginald Vell Johnson.
It was like his start as a.
He was almost done.
Cast as a cop and everything.
Yeah.
And he was almost done.
He was done. Like I think he had told his mom, he's like, this is it. This is the last one.
Audition.
Yep. Because he hadn't scored anything.
Yep. Up
to that point, and he was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right.
And to think about that, like you would not have gotten Family Matters if it hadn't have been,
right,
which was one of the best shows of the 90s.
Yeah.
Family Matters was one of my favorite shows.
Early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a great Urkel. Like you wouldn't have gotten any of that stuff if it hadn't have been for Die Hard. So
there's a joke going around the internet, and it's not. I mean, it's an edgy joke, but it's about his character in Die Hard shot a kid, and the joke is, well, Urkel had it coming,
right?
So, but it is great to see Al Powell. There is a connection, also. So the guy who is right next to Al Powell the whole time, he's in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't play the same character.
He's a different character.
He's a different character, which is always
actor.
funny. And the first time I realized that, like, I think as a kid, I was like, had one of those major brain farts. But it was, what is his name in Die Hard with a Vengeance? He actually gets a name in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah,
but I think he's good friends with John McTiernan.
Oh, okay.
Who went to prison for some tax stuff, I think. Or am I thinking Wesley Snipes?
Yeah, you're thinking Wesley Snipes. He went to prison for like surveillance. He was illegally tapping somebody's phone. There was some sort of I don't know what all the details of it, but there was some sort of situation where he was involved in something and he illegally wiretapped them and
that's right,
was recording their conversations. And I don't know whether it was a personal
look, I can relate. I want to. Yeah, I want to know what other people are saying about me. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, So.
I just won't go to prison.
So yeah, so he went. I mean, and it was like 9 months at a.
Oh yeah, it was
prison. So it's not like he went
country club.
I'm sure
he did hard time.
He probably played golf 3 times a week.
Yeah, it's like the Sunny Acres prisoners.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So
that all that talent attached. How could it go wrong?
Right.
And it doesn't go wrong. It goes absolutely right. Some other cool little tidbits from the movies that made us. The fall by Alan Rickman at the end.
Yes.
Is real.
Yes.
Oh, man, so he's like, oh yeah, I'll do this stunt.
Yeah.
Just drop me on 3, and the great stunt coordinator was like, drop them on 1 to get a real reaction from them. And so when you're seeing that terror on Hans Gruber's face,
yes,
it's real because they were like 3, 2, and they dropped him on 1. And I just wish I could see the full drop of it.
Well, yeah, and just to let you know, like he's dropped 40 feet, so it's a 40-foot drop into an airbag that they have. It's a green screen airbag below it, but I mean, I don't know about you, but 40 feet is a long way to fall.
Drop.
And if you're falling, and and he's not a stunt guy. This is a stage actor,
right?
Who who's never done any action stuff before.
British stage actor.
Yeah, and so so that when you get dropped right before they had that reaction on his face in slow motion is legit. Which is interesting because and not. To kind of go back to a different time, a different thing, but a lot of that, there's a history of directors doing stuff like that to people. So Ridley Scott did that to the cast in Alien, the first Alien movie. when the
right.
chest burster when the chest bursting scene happens,
they didn't know that was.
They had no idea that thing was in the guy's underneath the guy's shirt. So their reactions to this is
awesome.
completely legit, and so there is a history of directors doing that to people just to get an honest reaction to a particular situation.
Yeah, and so some of the cool tidbits, the Rolex. So it's the Rolex that lets Hans Gruber go, which was the symbol of it's a symbol of Holly and John's marriage not going well.
Right.
And it's the watch that releases Hans Gruber, and John is the one who takes it off her wrist.
Right.
And it's just like one of those little itty bitty movie thematic elements that nobody really picks up on until maybe it's pointed out, or maybe you just get it, like you're a nerd and you just get it.
Right.
But that was a cool little thing. When they were making the movie, they also they're like, okay, he's doing this. He's really doing this.
Yes.
But he's missing something.
Yes.
He's missing a catchphrase.
Yes.
And every action hero has to have one, right?
Right. Yep.
And this one is one that will last forever. So
it's one of the greatest. It is, if not the great. It probably is the greatest.
It's probably the greatest action catchphrase,
right?
For sure, because it is. Y'all know it. It's yippee-ki-yay, mother blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so, maybe also the greatest dub-over catchphrase of all time.
Yes.
In Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
When it's like dubbed for TV and it's yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen that, but that's pretty funny. Yeah.
You'll YouTube it because it's terrible.
Yeah.
So it's one end of the spectrum to the other.
Right.
But yeah, it was born out of the writer and Bruce Willis. They sat down.
Yeah, they were big fans of Roy Rogers. Yeah.
So that's actually that whole sequence, which is so good.
Right.
He's talking about, I was always partial to Roy Rogers.
Right.
I really like those sequence shirts.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's interesting that so the original screenplay was written by a guy named Jeb Stewart, and he did a great job. I mean, he put together all the bones of this particular
all the action,
all the stuff. He did a really great job of putting it together, but they wanted something, like you said, they wanted it to be a little more funny, and Jeb really just wasn't that type of a writer, and so they brought in they
fired him.
They fired him, yeah, and then they brought in Steven D'Souza, and he really helped with all the comedy stuff, and really kind of helped tie a lot of things together. He fixed some of the plot things that they needed to
subplots, like Holly and her coworkers.
Right, yeah. So it's just really interesting again to kind of watch how these movies get put together. And you would think to yourself, oh, it's got to be pretty easy to do this. It's really not. Like I think that's the one thing that it really and just for something to be such a massive success. There really was a lot that went into getting it to where it was. One of the things that Silver said, the producer Silver said about it was he wanted the top of the building to blow up. That was his one caveat for the whole movie was I want the top of the building to blow up, And so they had to try and figure out a way to blow up the top of this building. But again, they had to try and figure out, because and coming back to it, or what you said earlier about removing Bruce Willis from the poster, they replaced Bruce Willis with just the building on the poster because they wanted the building, and truly the building is a character in the building in the movie.
Yeah,
the building itself kind of takes on a life.
It will transcend time,
right? So it's just it was really cool. They were talking about one of the scenes where Bruce is, and this is kind of his first instance where he's in the elevator shaft, and he tries to jump from one to the other to get away from
which I did not know this. This is cool.
To get away from Carl and his guys. And so there's a stuntman, and again, this is a 40-foot tube that they're in. The stuntman makes the leap, and he doesn't get there. He doesn't get there. And so he falls 40 feet down into the bottom, and they were like, what should we, we're like, well, actually, it was a really great shot. Let's use that, and then they cut to another bit where he grabs onto and that's
fingertips.
the fingertips, and that's where you get the scene where he wedges himself in there, and you get to come out to the
coast.
We'll get together, have a few laughs, and then the I know what a TV dinner feels like.
It's one of the greatest shots, and if you just search Die Hard on YouTube, every thumbnail is of John McClane with the Zippo and the lit up face.
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't do it this year, but I'm going to do it this. I'm going to do it for this Christmas. There is you can make that a Christmas ornament yourself.
Oh yeah,
you can.
I've seen that.
You can print out a picture. You can print out that picture, and then just fold a box, and it'll do it. So I'm actually gonna do that this year for Christmas, because I've always said that. I've always said, I'm gonna do it, and I never do. And by the time,
depending on how famous we are by then, because I plan on being super famous by then.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we'll make it.
We'll take me with
Nerd
you.
Rundown.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Nerd Rundown paraphernalia or something.
Yeah, right. It would be maybe have some merch. But so I mean, Alexander Godunov's Carl character, and Alexander Godunov is a ballet guy.
But yeah,
so you know, he's not an actor.
He was not an action guy. He was not an actor.
I think prior to that, he had done
the little
Ghostbusters.
footage of him doing ballet was really impressive.
Yeah, he was a fantastic ballet guy. I mean, fantastic.
Yeah.
And so to move him into have him be your villain's right hand.
Yeah, the muscle.
I mean, just was amazing.
Yeah.
And his just.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the worst character in the movie, but also maybe the best. Mr. Ellis himself, Hans Booby. That
I'm
guy,
your white knight.
I'm your white knight.
Yeah.
It's not white knight.
Hart Bachner. Yeah.
Hart Bachner. Yeah, I was like, this the maybe the greatest beard of all time.
He has a fantastic beard. And you know what's something crazy is, like, it wasn't until HD TV came along that I noticed that he has stripes in his suit.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever noticed that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I wasn't until recently that I watched it that you can actually see the stripes on his suit. It's actually a really nice suit. I was like, wow, that's a really nice suit.
Show him the watch.
Yeah, right. What are you embarrassed? It's a Rolex.
Ellis, this is Holly's husband. He's a cop.
Right. You missed some.
He missed some.
He's doing coke on Holly's desk.
But it goes back to everybody has a purpose, and you think about what is Ellis's purpose.
Yeah, well, in that one, it's to test John's resolve for the rest of the team, or for the rest of the people.
Yep. Is he willing to let him die?
Right.
And to save more people, definitely save Holly.
Right.
And it's a gut wrench.
It is.
And it's awesome that it kills John. It's awesome that John tries to save him.
Yes.
And he's, Ellis, these people don't know you.
Yes. Because he's dealing with a level of person that he doesn't understand. He still thinks he's dealing with business people.
Right.
And he doesn't understand the level of their resolve to get what they want.
Yep. So it's awesome that he tries to save him, and then when he doesn't save him, it hurts John.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's more, that's the relatable factor, right. the relatability factor to John McClane, and it's awesome. Okay, so the movies that made us, it's on Netflix. Eric's been pushing me for years to watch it. I finally watched it, and I said to myself, why the hell did it take me so long to watch it? Because it was awesome, and I watched it 3 times this week. I almost said it.
Going back to Hart Bachner real quick before I let you finish your thought. Hart Bachner directed one of my favorite movies of all time, and it is a very prophetic movie from the 1990s called PCU, or Politically Correct University, with Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, I didn't know he directed that.
He did direct it. Piven hates his guts because he would not let him ad-lib at all. In fact, the only ad-libbed line in the entire movie is the best line in the entire movie, which is where he's in Draws's he's in Gutter's room, and he looks at him and he goes, "You're wearing the shirt of the band that you're going to see tonight?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy." That's the only ad-lib line. So if you actually listen to the commentary where Jeremy Piven goes on about that. But you talk about prophetic. I mean, oh my gosh, like that movie, the PCU movie is today, like the college campuses today, like times 10. Like I don't think they were extreme enough in that movie at this point. But yeah. So anyhow, Hart Bochner directed that one. Just just a little fun piece of trivia. It's one of my.
Well, it's not trivia now because he gave us the answer.
Well, yeah. So, but.
Little
if you're in a trivia, I guess it's a fun
if
fact.
You're in future trivia,
if you're in a trivia thing, and now you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And knowing is half the battle.
So watch it. It's on Netflix. It's really cool. There's Home Alone, Dirty Dancing, and Ghostbusters as the other four, and other three of the four. And
yes.
I can't wait to watch those.
Yes,
especially the Ghostbusters.
And then they have a Christmas one too. They have a Christmas where they talk about Elf. They do movies that made us with Elf.
Is this what? Isn't it what made the thing out east by the airport?
What do you mean?
Never mind. We'll move on, but let's talk about that after.
Oh, you mean for the Die Hard? Well, Die Hard 2.
No.
Okay.
In real life.
Oh, okay.
Remember, and we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to talk about the legacy of Die Hard.
Yes.
And you can't talk about the legacy of Die Hard without talking about its sequels. And we're going to do a quick ranking.
Yeah.
Of Die Hard sequels.
Okay.
I caught myself. So Die Hard 1 is going to be number 1.
Yes.
It's easy. Number 2, for me, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Easily.
And it's like Die Hard is a 10.0 and Die Hard with a Vengeance is 9.9.
It's tight.
And for rewatchability factor, Die Hard with a Vengeance takes it for me, actually.
Yeah.
And we talked about it in our 90s action movies a little bit. Maybe not even enough, but that movie, I remember watching it in the theaters, and it's coming away blown away.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time we saw the trailer for it. When I used to go to the theaters with my parents as a kid, I'd sit in front of them. Why? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that was my parents' choice, like get away from me, kid, or what, but I would sit in front of them. And so the trailers would come on, we'd watch them, and I remember Die Hard came on the trailer for that, and we talked about it with the best tagline ever. On a good day, he's a
good cop.
He's a good cop, or on a good day, he's a great cop.
Yep.
On a bad day, he's the best there is. And I remember when that trailer ended, I just remember turning around to my dad, and my dad goes, "Yeah!"
Give the fist bump,
big old fist pump.
Yep.
And it's been a special movie in my life ever since. So
yeah,
easily number 2. Number 3 for you?
Number 3 for me would probably be, I would say, I probably Die Hard 2. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard. It really is. The other,
I think it gets a little more hate than it deserves.
Yeah, the Die Hard 2 was okay.
Yeah.
It really was.
It's the worst name
coming off. Yeah, Die Harder. Come on, this is really like the guy in the
Die Hard 2. Die Harder.
Die Harder. Okay.
This time he's going to die harder than he died in the first Die Hard.
Yeah, it just. Yeah,
anyway,
I don't know. I did like the Live Free or Die Hard. So
for me, I would put the director's cut of Live Free or Die Hard as number 3.
Yeah.
But it's also, that's like, it might be just 3A, 3B. Like it's really hard because I love Die Hard 2.
Yeah, I think there was just too much time between Vengeance, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Live Free or Die Hard to really, it feels like a separate. Like I know that the character is the same character, but it feels separate from the other 3 movies.
Right.
So So Die Hard 2, Die Hard 2 was okay. It had, coming off the big success of Die Hard, everybody's expectation level is really, really high. And you watch it and you're like, it's cool. It's an action movie. It takes place in an airport.
Well, and coming off that, a lot of the complaints around Die Hard sequels are it's not Die Hard 1 where it's in a building.
Right.
And of course they're not going to make 4 Die Hards where he's in a building.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they're going to make it bigger.
Yeah.
But still contained in a way.
Yeah.
So it's contained in an airport.
Right.
Die Hard with a Vengeance, he's contained in New York City.
Right.
That's where maybe Live Free or Die Hard loses itself a little because it starts out in Maryland or in Baltimore or New Jersey or something, and goes down to DC.
It's DC, yeah.
I
don't know. Like so with Die Hard 2, it's just unrealistic. There's a lot of elements that are really unrealistic, and frankly, any movie where you crash an airplane full of passengers is just that was my biggest problem with that one was that was unnecessary. I get for the purposes of the movie, like you want to show what the seriousness of it, but I just felt like that was over. That was further than I could go. If you shoot a hostage or two, what's one or two? What is the
what's the CEO of a $1 billion company?
Yeah, who cares about that guy? Those guys are replaceable. But a whole airplane full of folks. It was much.
Yeah,
it was a little bit more.
Different ways to do it. We say this a lot about these movies. There's different ways to do it.
Yeah.
So figure it out.
Yeah. So Die Hard 2. I think the interesting thing about Die Hard 2 for me personally is that a lot of it was filmed at Stapleton here, and even though it took place,
pretty cool.
It took place in DC. A lot of it was filmed at Stapleton in Denver because they were moving everything from Stapleton over to DIA, the Denver International Airport, so it was abandoned and they could do whatever they wanted. And then the other bit is the church that's in it is actually down in Meade.
Oh yeah.
Here
in Colorado.
Yeah, my wife Stacy, her cousin Brady and his wife Val, they got married at that little church. So cool. I got to go to a church service there one time, which was kind of cool. So
cool.
Little movie.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Same for you.
The
then?
elements, I'd probably still put Die Hard 2 as 3, and then Live Free or Die Hard as 4. But it's close between those two.
Yeah.
The elements are still there for Die Hard.
Right.
And that's kind of my next point. Is there are rules for Die Hard? Okay. Number one rule for Die Hard is McClane's got to bleed.
He's great.
He's got to be a bloody mess because if a real action hero was, if a real action hero, if it was Darren Stemple or Eric Harris in these movies, it'd be a bloody mess.
Well, and that's the realism that I think they brought to it was, you watch the Commandos and the Predators and stuff, and the guys walk out and there's not a shred of blood on them.
Yeah. So that's the number one rule, and all the first 4 do a wonderful job at that.
Yes.
So I say wonderful job making him bleed, but do you bleed? And then the number 2 is John McClane's got to be put in a situation that's it's just like another. This is happening again. So that again, that the first 2 do a good job of that. When it comes to a third movie, you're like, is this guy really going to be put in another situation like that?
Right.
So they were smart to bring in Simon, Hans's brother.
Right.
So
to kind of make it personal.
To kind of make it personal, but to still put him in that kind of like the story of my life kind of deal. And that's maybe where the fourth one fails a little bit. Is it's just like, oh, again, it
just
didn't
an action
figure it
movie.
out. Yeah, it didn't figure out a way to do that all that well.
Yeah.
And then he's got to have that personality in every single one, and he's got the jokes and the quips and in these. So there is a 5th Die Hard movie. Did you know about that?
What?
Yeah, I know, right?
It was like it's just coming out?
No. It actually exists, and I've watched a whole 10 minutes of it.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I mean, I am a Die Hard aficionado.
Yeah.
I'm a Die Hard fan.
Yep.
Die Hard fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for John McClane. All hail John McClane.
Right.
10 minutes in, I'm like, I can't do this, John McClane. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because it's not John McClane.
It's dumb. It's got Jai Courtney, maybe the worst actor of all time, in that as his son.
Just dislike.
Which that was cool how they brought Lucy McClane back for Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it exists. If somebody watches it and likes it, please let us know, because it's something that we can't do.
Yeah, I won't even watch it. I just didn't like the everything.
next for Die Hard is the question. So,
well, you're actually missing the 6th Die Hard short film.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Say this again.
There is a Die Hard 6 short film. It was actually, I'm just joking.
Okay.
Well, there is the Die Hard commercial. Have you seen the Die Hard battery commercial that they do with John McClane?
No.
And they bring back
No.
They bring back Devereaux White from the first one, and then they also have Argyle in there too. So
okay, Argyle.
It's yep.
So what's next for Die Hard, or what's next for John McClane? There is a rumor at best, I think, that they're trying to develop a new Die Hard movie, which is going to be called McClane. So it's not going to be called Die Hard. It's going to feature an old Bruce Willis, obviously. Good shock. And then it's going to feature a young John McClane. So it's going to be like one of those movies where it shows flashbacks, and most of it's flashbacks, and he's telling the story of how he became John McClane or whatever it might be. I don't know. I need to know more before I get excited or not excited about it.
Sure.
If they understand that, okay, A Good Day to Die Hard, which was the 5th one, was terrible. If they understand that, and then they get away from that kind of movie and they go back to the origin of John McClane, I could see myself getting into that.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
We'll see.
Apparently, John. I don't know if Bruce Willis is aware, but he actually can say no to
he's definitely not. I don't think he is aware because what he's been in lately is just not good.
He says yes to every script and every.
What's the last good movie he was in? 16 Blocks. That was really good.
Yeah,
that was really good. I love that movie. Anyway, so Die Hard. We praise you. We give you this whole episode.
He was good in Glass. I liked him in Glass.
I haven't seen Glass.
It's the
sequel. Yeah, I know.
The sequel to Unbreakable. And
I think you're the only person who's told me it's not good, or that it is good.
It's all right.
I mean, trust you.
It's not.
It's not that I don't trust you.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not.
You
great,
have a trustworthy face.
Thank you.
Ish.
I don't know. I've been told I have a face for radio. But
you definitely have a voice for radio.
Yeah, right.
All the fans love your voice.
Well, so he was a little bit in Split. Which was really great. M. Night Shyamalan's Split, and then I actually did like Glass. You know, to wrap up that series.
Just to make sure I go back and finish up the story of
because Unbreakable was
so good.
Yeah, so good. And you talk about comic book movies. I was actually having a conversation with my oldest daughter's professor the other day, and we were talking about comic book movies, and I thought, one of my favorite comic book movies is Unbreakable, and because there's so many elements to that you don't even really see that you know about, like with the colors, like so the purple is Samuel Jackson's character's color, so everything around him is purple, and then with David Dunn's character, Bruce Willis's character, David Dunn, everything is green, so just these elements of different things that kind of go into Unbreakable that just are really kind of subtle underneath pieces that are there. So with Die Hard, kind of swinging back to Die Hard stuff. So, I wouldn't be sad if they retired the character. I really wouldn't. If they want to keep rolling with it, that's fine. I think maybe going back into his like a retrospective, I guess, of how John became who he was, but there's no shame in what they've done. They've created two really great movies and several really good movies.
Yeah, so, absolutely. We love Die Hard.
Yep.
That's why we are putting a whole episode around it, and we will continue to drop Die Hard references throughout our lives and throughout the show. So, with that being said, we want to get to the next segment, which we're changing up a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit this week, and we said to ourselves, are we worthy of calling it fan questions? We want to be able to earn that title.
Right.
And this is maybe one of our favorite parts about the show is answering these questions.
Yeah,
and we really appreciate you all sending them in. But we also want to go back to kind of the thematic element of this show to enhance nerd culture, and we want to give you guys an identity.
Yeah.
And so we're going to call, instead of calling it fan questions, we're going to call them nerd questions.
Yes.
We're going to pull them out of the nerd box.
Yes.
Credit Banana on that.
Right.
So this show is running a little bit long, so we're going to answer a couple brand new questioners, questionnaires, brand new nerd questionnaires,
right.
questions.
Right.
The first one, it comes in from Greg Kimball.
Yeah. Greg, Greg's a friend of mine from Seattle. I used to play softball with him, and former Army vet as well.
Thank you, Greg, for your service.
Yes, thank you, Greg, for your service. He was in artillery, so he doesn't hear too well. But,
I know the feeling. Even though I was in artillery, I was a combat engineer, so a lot of bombs going off in the ears, and it's just, you know.
He drove. He had a really great job. He drove the MLRS, so I was
cool.
like, oh my gosh, that thing is so cool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and being in Iraq, artillery was one of our favorite guys, so they helped us out quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
yes.
he submitted our first question through Twitter.
Yeah.
So also credit to you, Greg Kimball, on that. Also, is Greg Kimball related to Mr. Kimball?
He is not. He is not. So he doesn't.
He is not related.
His wife actually is a kindergarten, or I think she's a kindergarten teacher.
What?
But,
that is awesome.
So,
okay.
Yep.
Mr. Kimball.
Yep.
All right, here's a question for you guys. Name a movie that no matter what you are doing or the time of day you stumble on it, you finish watching it. Mine is Tombstone, which is, I believe, Eric's favorite movie.
Yeah.
I have been late. Well, I think he's just doing a John McClane and talking to himself there. So if I had to answer this question, there's so many answers, but I'm going to stay with the theme of the show and just say Die Hard. Any Die Hard 1 through 3. If those are on, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Not that we really channel flip a whole lot anymore, especially in the age of streaming where you have access to all these movies at any time.
Right.
But any MCU movie I could stop and watch just about, minus a few of them. But honestly, it's Die Hard for me.
Yeah.
I would put as the top, especially Die Hard with a Vengeance. Like I said, the rewatchability factor of Die Hard with a Vengeance is higher than in any of the others.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think probably Top Gun.
Oh yeah,
would be one that I would.
Oh yeah, good one.
Yeah,
we'll do a Top Gun show.
We should do a Top Gun show.
We're gonna do a Top Gun show,
Yep,
like a Die Hard show.
Yeah, because there's some good.
Maybe once Top Gun 2 comes out.
Yeah, as we get closer to that one. So I think that's
pretty
in the fall,
far away, though.
September, August, something like that. So, or is it November?
I think it's November.
November, yeah. So, yeah. I would say Top Gun is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
So
Tombstone's a great selection too.
Tombstone is. That is
I'm
one
not
of my
gonna turn that
favorites.
one off.
Yeah. There's some really great westerns that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
so.
Shawshank Redemption is up there.
That's a good
it's
one.
like, you know what movie we didn't mention in our top 90s action movies, which I don't know if it's considered action or not.
Shawshank Redemption?
No. Armageddon.
So I classified that one under sci-fi because,
It is one of those movies. If it's on, I'm watching it too.
Again, Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's maybe the most
Bad Boys,
unintentionally funny movie of all time.
Yeah, the Bad Boys movies. Bad Boys, I will stop and watch. I'll stop and watch that one too. Yep.
Even Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, I liked it. Yep.
Great question.
Yeah, great question, Greg. Thanks so much.
Question.
Yep.
The next question comes in from the very talented Corey Giese, a friend of mine through one of my Army buddies. So thank you for listening, Corey. Didn't even know you were listening until you submitted this, so that's awesome. Pass it along to everybody you know. What do you think is the most perfect series? One that has ended. He says, obviously, it's not me. Okay, this doesn't count if I'm reading it, right?
Because I had my finger on the button.
I know. Okay, so I'm reading it. I'm not saying it. So, yeah. One that has ended, obviously. Talking total package here. For me, it has to be Breaking Bad. I was feeling like Game of Thrones was going to overtake the number one spot, but we all know how that went. Yeah, Corey, great point. That's Game of Thrones was number one on my list all the way up till season 8, end of season 8, really, because even through, I was kind of in Game of Thrones fanatic mode. But it is, for me, after season 8 of Game of Thrones happened, it got knocked down the list, which means that my old number one came back and is still number one for me, and that's Lost.
Yeah, that's a great show.
Complete series for me. It's got everything you could want out of a show. Maybe the only drawback to Lost is it was made during the time of 22 episodes.
Yeah.
So the rewatchability factor of the entire series is a little bit tough.
Yep.
But you can go back and watch certain episodes at any time. Season 3 finale is still my favorite finale of all time, maybe the greatest twist in any TV show. We have to go back. That's when that happened. The Constant, maybe the best 60-minute episode of any TV show ever.
Yeah.
And I thought it wrapped up beautifully. It gets a lot of hate, but that's because people just don't understand what purgatory is.
Yeah.
And so, or that their theories weren't wrong.
I cried like a baby during that that whole last.
It was just, I just remember I'm reminded every so often going through that show how good it really was.
Yeah.
And there was a scene on Twitter, it popped up the other day, a scene between Jack and Sawyer, and it was the scene where Sawyer talked about meeting Christian, Jack's dad.
Oh, right.
In Australia, and how Christian was on a bender, and he was like, I wish I could see my son and tell him how proud of him I am. And one of Jack's things is he's got daddy issues, and that scene, it was so powerful, and I was just like, man, that show was so freaking good. How could anybody hate this show?
It was great. I loved it. I'm a big fan of Lost also. For me, it's probably so with an honorable mention to the X-Files.
Okay.
I really loved the X-Files. That was one of my favorite shows until the final few seasons. It really just kind of fell apart towards the end. They just ran too long on that one. They should have hung the Spurs up a lot sooner. The X-Files was great, but for me, it's Star Trek: The Next Generation. So
not surprising.
I loved it. For me, it was great from very beginning, from Encounter at Farpoint to All Good Things, from the very first episode to the very end. Again, you were talking about 22 episode stuff. That's the same thing with this. So 7 seasons of 22 episodes. It's hard, it's hard. There's a lot of bombs in there, but you just can't have that much stuff. How many that great seasons, and once they started to hit their stride, they really did a great job of doing some stuff. And the thing with they can talk about existential things, and they can talk about race issues. They can talk about and using them as a metaphor, for different things. So they can talk about different race stuff and have it not be about black and white. They can talk about it's Klingons and
it's
Romulans.
It's one of the first shows that can say it was made without prejudice.
Absolutely. Gosh, they had I think Nichelle Nichols, in the first Star Trek was the first black woman on television. So just amazing stuff. So
and that is one of the great things about Star Trek in general is it just.
Well, not only did it put just people of color, but also women. Like you had women and men doing the same jobs, all that stuff. I don't know. Again, Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's my favorite. So that's just where I'll kind of leave that. But
I don't know if I'll ever get to Star Trek, but it is. I know the impact it's had on society and pop culture, and I respect it.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is better. What?
Yeah. Star Wars is sci-fi.
Yeah. Star Wars is more
sci-fi
fantasy.
Yes.
So I love that question, Corey. It's a question we've talked about. And, Breaking Bad was a really good show. I didn't love it as much as the world has loved it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's still a good show. I can give props to it. I don't see it as being the greatest thing ever like most people think it is. And that's just my own humble opinion.
Yeah.
So
another show that I find very underrated is Person of Interest.
We talked about that with Ben Linus. Yeah, and Jesus.
Yep.
Henry.
Yep. Stars Jesus. Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
It's Caviezel.
Jack Caviezel?
No.
Jim
Caviezel.
John Caviezel.
Jim
Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel.
Jude Caviezel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good, cool little nerdy show there.
Yep.
All right, one more, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yep.
From also a new listener this week, Meg Bradbury. Welcome to the show, Meg. Love that you're listening while you're Never mind. I won't finish that sentence. While you're driving to work.
Meg, we appreciate your your enthusiasm, and that particular story you sent is hilarious. Is awesome.
Yeah. So she says, and so Meg is she's a new mommy. She has 2 beautiful babies. She says, what are you most excited for your kids to start nerding out on, and or have they already started to with anything? And again, we could probably spend a whole episode on this if we want to, but for time constraints, I'll just keep it very simple and just say that it warms my heart every single time Penny talks anything about the MCU. Yeah. She loves the MCU. And then anything on Netflix that she likes, the DC Superhero Girl show. She's really into Carmen Sandiego right now.
Nice.
So she's my little nerd, and I love it. And we'll see if Joey ever gets there, but
yeah,
if not, Penny is enough of a nerd for me to piss Ben off.
Yeah, I don't know. My daughter, my middle daughter, the older daughter, she's not really into that stuff. She'll watch stuff, but and my middle daughter, I think she's following in the same footsteps. She's not much of in the nerd content. My son, on the other hand,
he's definitely your little nerd.
He is big time nerd, and he is. Right now, he is super into Godzilla.
I know.
I mean, like, super. Like, he literally, this morning, Baron comes over to the house, and he's watching.
Who came over?
You came over to the house.
Oh, I thought you said Baron.
No.
Did you say Baron?
No, I said Darren.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Who the hell's Baron?
My question exactly.
Yeah. So he comes over to the house, and my son is watching the 1953, 55
Well,
version.
he was watching it. King of the Monsters had just ended.
Right.
And I walk in, and I think Eric's in the shower. Whatever. I don't know why I just said that out loud, but yeah. I was thinking about it. I come in, Jack and Amelia are sitting on the couch, and they're Godzilla King of the Monsters just finished. I go, what are you guys watching? And the look on Jack's face was priceless. He looks up at me and he goes, Godzilla. And it was just like, I was like, oh, you could just feel the nerd come out of him.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He comes home yesterday. Him and his grandmother went to the store, and he got a new Transformer because he's big into Transformers too. He loves the Transformer stuff, which is great. I've probably ruined him.
I wish they wouldn't make him so damn hard to transform.
Yeah, some of them are pretty tough. They got some easier ones now that make it a little bit better. But so he's watched a lot of Transformer stuff, and now he's into Godzilla. He comes home yesterday. He's, Dad, I know what I want for my next toy. And I said, okay. He says this is my latest toy, and he shows me. He says, but my next toy is gonna be Godzilla. He says, I saw it at Walmart. It's amazing, And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great, buddy.
Yep.
So, but it's neat because I think we've talked about it before. My dad watched Godzilla when he was a kid. My dad and I watched Godzilla when I was a kid, and now I'm getting to watch Godzilla with my kid. So it's and that's the true and great beauty about nerd stuff.
Well, we've again, we want to enhance nerd culture.
Yeah.
But also what we're doing here with this show is we're showing you, or trying to show you that, being a nerd isn't, studying astrophysics and, being able to quote comic books. It's you can be a nerd about anything, whether it's the MCU, passion. Whether it's Harry Potter, whether it's Die Hard.
Right.
I am a Die Hard nerd, full throttle.
Right.
So you can be a nerd about anything. You can be a nerd about Zillowing at nighttime from 8:30 to 10:30, like somebody I know does every night. You could be a nerd about history.
Right.
Being a nerd is awesome, and it means you are passionate about something.
Right.
And I will do this show till the end of my life if I have to get that message across.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because there's stuff that I nerd out about that aren't pop culture nerd stuff. Right. Like this week has been a huge week in like the UFO stuff. Because I absolutely love UFOs. Again, X-File stuff. Like I try to eat up as much. But like 60 Minutes did a whole show last week. They did like a 15-minute episode, 15-minute clip on UFOs, which was like 60 Minutes. The New York Times has written stuff on on UFOs lately. So like I'm totally nerding out about that stuff, but there's like
one day we'll get to your UFO 101.
Oh man, I can't wait to do a show on that. If that's something you guys would be interested in, I really would like to hear comments like on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. If you can, just let us know if that's something that you guys would like to hear more about. So maybe a separate episode or something. But yeah, I mean, again, it's passion.
Right.
What are you passionate about? Because that's probably what you're nerdy about. Like if there's something that you absolutely are like voracious about reading or voraciously watching or learning about, that's what you're a nerd for. And it's great. And you should embrace it, and you should love it, and you should do all that you can to share that passion with other people, because people will listen to you about just about anything as long as you're passionate about it.
Right. There's a little comic that I always use for physical analogy because, it's like, are you a geek? Are you a dork? Are you a nerd? So it's this is geek and nerd are kind of interchangeable. It's when I'm called a dork that I'm going to really want to punch you in the face. Right. But
it's a bridge too far.
Yeah, it says it's like two bunnies, and it's like, Magic the Gathering. Wow, you're really letting your nerd flag fly, eh? And he says, actually, it's a geek flag. Nerds are more academically inclined. Then again, this has changed over time. But while we geeks are just super passionate about our hobbies. And the other guy goes, I see. And the people who know and care about this difference are called, I believe, dork is the preferred nomenclature. And it's just, maybe we throw that up on our website or something, or our Twitter or something. But
yeah, right.
It's just been one of my little favorite things. And maybe even over time, nerd has overtaken the geek nomenclature on that. So
probably, yeah. Well, I think the geek is somebody who bites the heads off live chickens. So,
yeah, that
circus geeks.
I don't mind being called a geek or a nerd. You can call me those. Any
kind of synonymous with each other.
Yeah. There you go. Synonymous is a good word. So I am really getting used to this. So, Die Hard. We love you.
Yes.
Thank you for giving us the ability to do an entire show around you.
Yes.
We will praise Die Hard at Christmas time. It's the first on our list to watch every time.
Yep.
And then I move on to Die Hard 2. So I really wish Die Hard with a Vengeance had Christmas in it. It has a line in it when the kids are stealing from the convenience store and Bruce Willis stops them and the kid's like, look around. It's Christmas. You could steal City Hall.
Right.
And that was like the only reference to Christmas.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, Die Hard. It's our first fully themed episode. Again, we'll do this more often. This was a lot of fun. I know, like, movies like Top Gun deserve it. Like we said earlier, other movies we can do a full theme around too. So if you guys have ideas on that, we want to hear it.
Yeah.
But thank you to my co-pilot, Eric. Killing it today as always. You're awesome. Really appreciate you. Thank you for letting us remote location today again in your basement.
Yeah.
So nerds on remote. Maybe, I don't know, come up with a little name for that next time.
The bunker. Yeah.
The bunker.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to do like a remote in where we're holding mics in your movie theater or something.
That would be cool.
Doing it from the movie theater. And we'll video it.
Yeah, we need to figure out a video. I've got to figure that part out. So, yep. So we'll do
Nobody wants this face.
Right.
On video.
Wow.
And I was pointing to me, not Eric.
Yeah. That's not true. You're much more handsome, and you've got a much better beard than I do. So.
Yeah, but I have more of a receding hairline than you do.
Well, yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay, nerds. We love you. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.